Welcome back. This is the second half of our newspaper review right now, looking at really what is the big story right now. Right across the country, lawyers and linguists trying to decipher what shall will mean on this one. It's been quite a puzzle on that one, but we have a question of the day. Let's have that up on screen. Would the dissolution of Parliament solve the gender imbalance issue? Would the dissolution of Parliament solve the gender imbalance issue? From where you stand, everyone has an opinion on this one. What's yours? Send us your comments and your opinion, of course, on the WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen. Let's have some messages up. Good morning, Jeff. I feel this matter shows just one of the many weaknesses of our Constitution. The Constitution is pushing for the gender rule, yet in actual sense, this decision rests with the people. It wouldn't be ideal that we push the Parliament to create positions or nominate just for the sake. Okay? Let's have another message up. One thing it will make our parliamentarians realize we have a constitution and it reigns supreme. A new lot when coming in will know the seriousness of the constitution. Okay, so just putting into perspective the gravity of, the letter and spirit of the constitution. We have one more message. It absolutely is. They had the time to enact or look into it before it came to this. They have ignored the law. We consider the constitution as a supreme law and none is above it. The law says it should dissolve the parliament, so shall it be. Okay, so people feel that this really is the way to go. One more message, we have it up. Good morning, Jeff. The reality is President should follow the Maraga advisory because President took oath to protect this constitution that outlines this directive. Uhuru must swallow his pride and do as advised. That's Mugambi from Meru. Asante sana for that, Mr. Mugambi. Keep your WhatsApp messages coming in, of course, even as we continue this discussion right here. And I'll come to you, Bonnie, on this one, because as you've seen, even in sentiment from some of our viewers, at this particular point in time, even if we dissolve, have we solved the problem? Or are we bringing another house that will still be skewed in terms of its gender and won't pass this particular bill? Because it wasn't the first time or the second time, or I think it was a record 4 times
the fourth time
on the house that it failed.
Yes.
How does that change with dissolving Parliament?
I think there's a little disconnect when you hear what Wananchi are saying. Mm-hmm. They think we are going back to the election so that the public can be given an opportunity to ensure that through that election, the 2/3 requirement is met. No, that's not the reason. You cannot force a voter to vote for a woman when they want to vote for a man. The spirit of the Constitution, in fact, the letter and spirit of the Constitution is that in the event that the 2/3 composition by either gender in the House is not met after an election, we should have a law that ensures that that imbalance is corrected through nominations. Right. So if, for argument's sake, the number of women will drop from the current number of elected women during the forthcoming parliamentary election after the dissolution, if it drops, it simply means the MPs who will come will enact a law that is going to provide on how you can bridge so that neither gender is outside that particular 2/3 gender rule. Right. That's what should be clear to members of the public. Now, you are asking me, can you equate? The answer is yes, because what is going on is impunity. For God's sake, I've sat in that house for 15 years. And I know that the reason why the gender rule does not pass is not because people don't see the importance or don't understand the provision of the Constitution. It doesn't pass because members of Parliament sit in a corner and they say, no, we are not going to pass it. Then either they walk out of the house to deny the house a quorum, or they travel outside of the country, as they do, or they stay in their constituencies, they don't come, or when they come, they vote against it. So it is actually impunity. They think they are legislating for women. We are legislating for the country for either gender, in the event that one or not the other doesn't meet that required number. Right. Finally, then how will it work? It will work because the new parliament that is going to come in will realize that if we don't do what our predecessors didn't do, then we are going to meet the same fate.
Right.
As I have told you before, the Constitution provides that if the new parliament fails, it will go home in the same manner and the other one in the same manner until this is rectified.
Okay.
Yeah.
Millie,
so it is doable.
Millie, I'll have you in on this one as well, because even as Halali speaks about the fact that this actually will get parliamentarians to know that it can actually happen, on the floor of the House, that impunity that Bonnie is talking about is still being exhibited. We've heard the parliamentarian saying that if indeed Parliament is dissolved, there'll be even more men in the House, in the next, election in Parliament, and it'll be even harder to pass this particular bill. Really, if this dissolution aspect was supposed to bring in the fear of God, we're not seeing it in Parliament.
Just as the book by Honorable Kalwale has said, it is not about ensuring that next time round we are going to have more women and less men in the House. It is about ensuring that we have a law in place that will ensure that at any one time, should there be a gender imbalance, we will have a process within which we are able to bring that balance. I mean, when it comes to elections, you can never tell. Look at the elections that went on in the Law Society of Kenya. You have a situation where you have so many women in the council and very few men, so that I'm not even sure if the number of they actually form not more than 2/3 of one gender. And that could also translate into the elective houses, legislative arm. 2007, before we had the current devolved government, we had a lot more women elected into the council in the Rift Valley than in any other place. And there were few men elected as councillors then. This, of course, has changed with time. And if we look at the next elections after that, you may find that, again, we have women and few men coming in. And we need both genders. We need both of them. We need both of them for us to be able to have balanced laws, because each of them brings a different perspective. Now, whether this will solve it or not, it will definitely solve it. I think that this is why the bright people who went to Naivasha to negotiate the draft that was presented by the experts decided that let us put this there, since no formula could be realized then, and nobody was able to agree on it, and they would bring the normal arguments of blotted numbers. They said, let us put it there, so that once you insist and you have a mechanism where the law will ensure that at one point we will have to have that law in place, then we will begin to have the journey of having women elected, so that the children who are growing up post that era will be accustomed to seeing women in leadership positions and not think strange when a woman decides to stand for a leadership post, and therefore they will vote for people not because of their gender, but because of what they stand for. Now, there's something I wanted to comment on also. There's been a lot of talk about whether this is a legacy. Is this action taken by the CJ simply because it is a legacy call for him? And my constant question to that is, why not? Why not? If somebody wants to leave behind a good legacy that will benefit this country in realizing some of the laws that we have put in place, why not? Even if it is for his own selfish interest to have a legacy. But if that legacy is good for the country, bring it on.
Okay, let's see what else.
I think if I was here, I would have told people, come, baby, come. You know, this is fine.
And that's not the only thing he probably left in terms of legacy, because even with the political dynamics as of now, some people have looked at this and said this could be really what Uhuru Kenyatta needed to have the executive, be able to control the legislature, in the sense that if you don't swing my way as far as BBI is concerned, well, there's this 2/3 gender rule issue that I really haven't spoken about, and you need to play ball on this. Do you think this could also be part of the political dynamic now moving forward, a less independent parliament, because there's this shadow over their heads that if we don't sing to this particular tune, we might be sent all packing home?
You know, this is a wake-up call to members of parliament and even the president, because the president has already demonstrated that he doesn't obey court orders. In fact, the country has been waiting for the president to appoint 41 judges, and he has refused for no reason at all. So because that he could live with, since there were some judges who were discharging justice anyway, but on this one, it's a big one. There will be no single MP remaining in the House to pass his budget. So all members of parliament will go. Anybody else who is helping the president to have an opportunity to run away from the constitution is actually prodding him into impunity. Let me give you an example. The statement by the former prime minister, he's entitled to his own opinion. But when he says there should be room for wide consultations, under what constitution in this country is it provided that upon that pronouncement by the Chief Justice and upon receipt of that advice from the Chief Justice by the president shall consult? That is a constitution, either the constitution of Orange Democratic Movement or something else. The constitution of Kenya does not provide for as much. So the long and short of it is that the president must now start organizing government on how it will function in the interim period when parliament has now been dissolved and we are waiting for the parliamentary election that is forthcoming.
So for you, it's not an if, it's a win.
It's gone. And we want to thank God, as Millie called them, the good people who went to Naivasha and came up with this draft. They have actually also provided in the same constitution on how government will be run when parliament has been dissolved. Can you imagine members of parliament were saying on the floor of the House that this decision is premature? It cannot be premature because it has taken 10 years of inability for parliament to pass this law. So did they want 11 years? Or they wanted 10.5 years for it to be seen to be that it is timers.
Right. Millie, I'll pose the same question to you on this one. Is this the big carrot that the president will dangle as far as parliament is concerned? If they don't dance to his tune, there's this issue that still hasn't been resolved and they could go home any day. So anytime the executive needs a bill passed in the House, they all had better remember the composition of the House has a 2/3 issue and it could be used against them.
But really, does he need an additional something to hang over their head? He already has control. We've been talking about a legislature that is held captive by the executive. We've been saying that the executive is calling the shots in as far as the legislature is concerned. We saw that recently when there was the tie at the Senate, they had to go to visit the executive before they were able to finally come up with the based on a promise that they got from the executive. So the executive still does have a hold. Do they really need an additional something for them to have a hold of a bunge? They were able to get the right people into the leadership of the House that they wanted, following the so-called Tanga-Tanga Kieleweke issues, and kicked out the people that they thought were blocking the ability of the executive to be able to do that. So they have people in the House. Remember when Senate was debating the division of revenue issue, the whip kept telling them, listen, you either sing the tune or you don't. And he was clearly adamant on what needs to be done. So does the executive really need something to hold over their head? I think not. I think what the president needs to do is to just think carefully about this. He has been on record telling women that we have the numbers. Why don't we just vote? I think right now the people who are around him, who are proponents of the gender equality principle, should remind him that unless we take drastic action to push this, you're not going to tell me, who has grown up all my life knowing that leaders are men, that now suddenly, much as I'm an empowered woman, that I should vote for women. When I go into that booth, I will just think of leaders and I'll think of men. So it's not just about women being able to vote for women. And if they told him that, then maybe he would see the importance of taking this drastic action to ensure that we have equality in posterity. After all, he is the father of a daughter.
Okay, let me bring it to studio as well. Bonnie is also a father of daughters as well. Do you have an addition or a rejoinder?
Several of them.
Uh-huh.
And let me tell you, this is not a laughing matter. The point you have raised is that the president could be tempted to use this as a carrot to pass his agenda in the House. Mm-hmm. Brings into question the important matter that after the judiciary has confirmed that Parliament is unconstitutionally constituted,
right,
would decisions of an unconstitutionally constituted Parliament be binding? So he can tangle that carrot, but the decisions that are going to be made by this Parliament henceforth cannot be taken to be binding because it is unconstitutional. Finally, about my daughters. It is not a joke. I'm a practitioner of politics. I know that women don't lose an election because they are women. Mm-hmm. They lose an election because the playing field is terribly against them. One, the issue of money. Women don't have as much money as us men to go into an election. And it costs a lot of money to run an election. Two, there is the issue of violence. By their very nature, women candidates are not able to perpetuate violence or participate in violence or be part of violence, mm-hmm. which is in politics. Three, there is the issue of manipulation. Women, the time of manipulating elections is done when women are at home taking care of their children and feeding their husband when they are candidates. The manipulation is done in smoking rooms in the darkness of the night where women are not. And then finally, the challenges faced by women. The women, there is open deceit in Parliament. Look at the young lady who came from Sambweni yesterday, mm-hmm. innocently with her documents hoping to come and collect a nomination certificate from Jubilee. That's what women go through. She arrives in Nairobi, she finds that men in Nairobi have been involved in their games of deceit, and she's stuck.
Right.
She cannot find herself with a nomination certificate. Mm-hmm. So those issues are the ones that weigh against our women, and this is why we want this constitution to be exercised. Look, I have presented myself before, and I'm going to present myself again, if God so will allows me, as a candidate. And I have run against women. Mm-hmm. And I have defeated them. So why are people so uncomfortable when they hear the word woman? You go there and defeat the woman. If you defeat her fairly, fine. If you don't, let the Constitution also protect the reality of the environment, the ecosystem in which the politics of this country are played.
That really is a perfect segue to where I wanted us to go with this, even as we wind up this particular conversation. Because Millie, even as you look at this particular gender bill, two-thirds gender bill that has been on the floor of the House, are we looking at it from an extreme one side? Because there's a broader issue. We're talking about campaign finance bills that have never been actualized on that one. We're talking about institutions that really need to be strengthened. If we did that, would we even need to have this bill in the House? Because clearly there are some loopholes that are left, and it seems more like by design than by default.
And I think that is why the head of the legislature, the Speaker, was stating that they have made efforts, because a number of laws have been passed to try and even out the playing field in as far as elections is concerned, and particularly taking the concerns of women who engage in electoral processes done. A number of amendments have been done and proposals for amendments pending before the same House. I think because of the process of passing bills through both National Assembly and Senate, some of the bills may not have been concluded, but a number of them have also been passed that will help even out the field. But that is not the entire question. Other than evening out the field, there was the other affirmative action concern that we want to physically have women here, so that for those who want to see, must have a culture of seeing women sitting in that space for them to appreciate that it is possible happens. And that law is still missing. So that is where the problem still remains. Much as they're taking care of the other laws, there's that specific law that will ensure that at any one time, much as we recognize that we're a country where people have free will to vote as they please, that at any one time, even all decide that we're very angry with women posting as an election, and then we all go and vote for men, that still we will have women in our face, whether we want it or not. They will be seated in that house.
We have some tweets coming in. Let me look at that very quickly. We have Kenny saying, the problem with our political leaders is that they all want us to believe that what is good for them and what is right for the Constitutional Court is the same thing, thus created to save Kenyans from unrealistic, self-seeking ideologies. Joseph Kuria also talking about the fact that senators are going home as well. Daktari, I'm assuming that there's only one doctor in the room, Dr. Halwale.
Yes,
Wilson Dongo Jenga, it is impossible to pass what international bodies want, which is contrary to what Kenyans dream of. Wilson, Kenyans don't dream of a gender balance in Parliament. Is that what we are saying? Let's look at Evans Milo. We are keen to follow this particular discussion. Let's see what happens. We also have at Joseph Tapenyo Bill. It's not about MPs or the government, but President's government, which has really failed us because it seems the President isn't aware of what's happening in his own government. Yet he's among the lot who knew two-thirds gender rules was among what they supported in voting in the Constitution. Why not make it happen? Okay, that's what is coming in as far as Twitter at I am Jeff Moto. We have some WhatsApp messages as well. Let's have them up. Hello, Jeff. We women are enemies of ourselves. Even if they dissolve Parliament, trust me, the number of women won't be voted as per the Constitution. Juliet from Eldoret. They should find another way other than dissolving the Parliament. We should focus on other matters as a country like COVID-19 and stabilizing the economy. Dissolving the Parliament won't help. Bonnie had actually spoken about this and the misconception as to how this particular issue will be resolved. Let's have another message up. Hello, Jeff. Kenyans should get it right. Why is Parliament being dissolved? They have failed to do their job. Even if we elect 290 male MPs, they'll be required to fix what this Parliament has failed to do. Let them go home. They are ready to campaign for BBI, reggae, but not for themselves. I agree with Honorable Halwale. Solomon from Kisumu. Asante sana. Do you have another message? Okay, let's have it up. Morning K24, dissolution is in itself not the solution to the sufferation of the population. I mean, how does this gender rule trickle down to me, the jobless youth? There are more pertinent issues this government has dramatically failed in. Waangazie hayo kwanza. Okay, so we're coming to the tail end of this. I think I can get closing remarks as far as this is concerned. Keep those tweets coming in, of course. We can continue this conversation online. Halwale, from where we stand on this one, what do you feel is the way forward? We've seen the lines have been drawn. We wait for this particular case to be heard. But from here, are we going to dissolve? You've said it's not if, it's when this Parliament is being dissolved.
I think, and this is not my opinion. I'm just speaking to the Constitution.
Right.
Kenyans should now prepare for the forthcoming parliamentary election. They are not being asked to go and elect more women. They're being asked in the forthcoming parliamentary election to participate in an election and choose amongst people who will have presented themselves for election.
Right.
And depending on how they vote, numbers will come to Nairobi out of the 290 constituencies and 47 counties. The new parliament will then enact a law that will provide for how we can be creating a balance between either gender.
Okay.
The second point is that members of the public should stop listening to us who want to feed them on opinion. They have had members of parliament and some political parties leaders saying that we do not have enough money for us to conduct the forthcoming parliamentary election. The same leaders who are discouraging them are the same ones who are saying there is enough money to do a referendum.
Right.
Finally, but not least, the people who are saying on the floor of the House that IEBC in its composition has a problem, they are the same ones who have no problem when the same IEBC, who they are saying is not properly constituted, they have no problem with the same IEBC which has been doing by-elections from 2017. They have no problem with the same IEBC conducting a BBI referendum for them. So it is doublespeak. Let's just face it. We go for election for the parliamentary. I want to wish those who will run for Senate, those who will run for members of parliament, good luck. That is how life is.
Let me get Millie in on this one. What is your parting shot this morning, Millie?
I think that we must recognize the fact that nothing comes easy. We have been talking as a nation about the need to have more funds that have been collected at the national level sent out to the counties. And we saw the fight, including making us believe them, that the senators had to take it through before they were able to get this money increased, albeit by a promise by the executive, but increased some extent, which is what they had wanted. Nothing comes easy, and including the gender principle. It is just one of the other principles, just as the devolution principle is. It will not come easy. So if it means that we have to prepare to vote again, vote, and we are going into an electronic world. So I think it should be much easier this time around.
Okay. Clearly, it all seems like all roads do, lead to this dissolution of Parliament and these elections taking place. That's why we wind up our conversation right here. Don't forget, you can get yourself a copy of your People Daily for only 10 shillings. The number that you dial is *550*4#, and you get yourself a copy of your People Daily straight to your phone. And for those who participate on the show, the first 10 winners walk away with 250 shillings worth of airtime. What you do is take a screenshot of your e-paper, send it with your name and where you're watching from, and we send you airtime, all courtesy of the People Daily and Safaricom. We wind up our news review at that particular point in time. Thank you so much, Dr. Boni Halwale, for making time this morning. Asante sana. And of course, Millie Lwanga joining us for the last time via Skype.
Yes.
Umeambiwa na daktari ukuja studio. He's missed you. We take a short break. We're back with more. This is K24 this morning.
that displays is probably what they should stick to. You see, when they were founded in 2012, no other company was even close to building a foldable smartphone of their own. So Royal probably thought, easy, we got this. If we can be the first
Okay, mbona simsikii?
Oh. Hapo. So Brenda, where's in the show too?
I think happened is they became complacent.
Where's in the show in song?
Before we knew what was happening, it was 2019.
Sawa.
Samsung was about to launch an actually
Sawa.
good foldable phone, at which point it looks like Royal panicked and just released whatever their latest prototype was, as the Royal Flex Pi. They knew that if they weren't first, then they really didn't have anything.
Eh?
It's a similar form factor to the Huawei Mate XS I took a look at a few weeks ago, except it's the thickness of a book when folded up, and the software is so bug-ridden, it was bringing up visions of times that I thought we'd move past. The Flex Pi was just a really bad start to foldable smartphones. It was bad enough that it made people take a step back and question why on earth companies were trying to fold their phones in half in the first place. So this one's getting a 3 out of 10 failed from me. Also, a shout out to Surfshark VPN for being the sponsor of this. Number 11 is Air Power, not a smartphone, but a smartphone for native bit of tech. Well, it ended up being a bit of a no-show back in 2017 alongside iPhone 10, and will show the world why it's charging done right. A pad that you can place your devices anywhere on and not just start charging. And this was massive because whilst Apple is never really the first to enter new product categories, generally when they do, they tend to set a new industry standard.
A very good morning to you and welcome to K24 this morning. My name is Mungala Mbuvi and this is Interactive. Of course, the entire gango is in place. That is Shiko, Kai, Tani, and of course Jeff Mote. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Yeah. I don't know, Shiko, you look like you woke up on the right side of bed. Nikamo promised you a huge date tomorrow. I mean, sorry, tonight, because, you know, you're looking good in red. What's up with that?
By the way, imagine you could just say, Shiko, you look nice. I don't have to be
Shiko, you look nice. That's what I'm saying.
Else.
You woke up on the... I'm finding new ways of saying you look...
Oh,
you know,
my Lord.
good.
But thank you so much, Movie. No, I'm just feeling myself today, you know? I just decided, why not? Besides, it's Relationship Thursday, so it's all about love.
Shiko, because I know that song Lady in Red is like deep in your playlist. Finally, ngoma.
Actually, I don't know. I think something Centera.
Well, yes, you
Someone
are the lady in red.
Centera.
I had it the other day in a supermarket.
We can Google that.
Yes,
Please Google.
yeah, check it out.
The song
as you
that's
guys-
actually playing in my head right now, don't even ask me, is Erykah Badu. Bag Lady. That's what I'm listening
Well,
to.
I can see here Lady in Red, song by Chris DeBarg or something.
Oh, gosh.
Wow. Okay.
Amasioyo.
Oops. Yes,
become
that's
an-
the one,
that's the one.
actually.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
is.
Hile ngoma Lady in Red.
Yes, that's the bar.
Is
Okay.
dancing
Chris
with
De-
me.
Yeah.
Chin
Okay.
to chin.
I had it the other day in a supermarket and I was like, hizi ni ngoma tu za Shiko. Ama yeye ndo anacheza muziki hapa ndani.
Excuse me, I want the two of you to know, when you had your stint on radio, you had to play some of these jams. So munazijua.
I never had to play Lady in Red ever in my radio life.
Movie sema ukweli.
Well, acha nikwambie kile kwanza leo nimesikia. I was listening to radio this morning and guess what I heard?
What?
This song